Same shit, different day. Another podcast.
It's funny to see you change weekly. You look
I know,
different.
right? It's about that time in prep where I'm changing almost daily now, I
Good
guess.
man. It's very cool. I can see it in your shoulders. Like your face
Yeah,
was different last week. Your face is a little different this week, but your shoulders look noticeably different now.
yeah.
It's good.
Trend. Yeah.
Exactly right. People are like, "What do you do for your shoulders?" Tren.
Yeah, when you don't like use it all the time, then when you actually use it, it makes a huge fucking dramatic difference. So
Yeah. GH helps that too, but
yes,
you so
absolutely, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and just killing the training, just killing the diet, killing the cardio. You know how it goes.
you sleeping?
Yeah, I'm sleeping pretty good. I mean, I've got the new CPAP, so that's making a big difference. And on my rest days like today, I'll take an extra nap instead of training, obviously. And then just my normal sleep, I go to bed at like 10 or 10:30, wake up at 6 or 6:30. So it's a pretty solid routine. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Naps are great, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just woke up from my nap really just now. I needed it.
Yeah, amazing shit.
But, yeah, no, it's good, man. And I'm doing a lot of breath work as well because I feel like if I didn't have the breath work, I think I would probably be losing my shit at this point.
I mean, you're always pretty calm, man.
Mhm. I mean, I attribute a lot of that to doing the breath work and the meditation because you feel like the level of stimulation and anxiety increases, as you get closer and closer to prep. And then most guys will complain, hey, I can't sleep, or hey, I'm stressed out, and things start going wrong. But it's like, well, you got to put some practices into place. You got to build those habits before it's too late. So yeah, I'm super grateful for some of these breathwork YouTubers. I do Third Eye Gemini is probably my favorite one. He's got a whole bunch. Third Eye Gemini is really good, man. And the one thing about breath work that I realized from doing it on YouTube is if you got a breath work person putting on YouTube's, then if they put in advertisements, it totally just ruins the experience. So the Third Eye Gemini, I think he's got some advertisements on some of his longer ones, but for like the 15, 20-minute ones, they're advertisement free.
Well, he doesn't
That
monetize.
Yeah, that it might change, but I mean, if you got an advertisement at the beginning or the end, I think that's fine. But you can also choose to put them in the
Yeah.
middle.
Well, you
So
can. Yeah, I mean, like I choose to monetize my videos. You don't have to. You could hit monetize off. You know,
yeah,
at the end of the day, like I mean, realistically, unless you're bigger, Steve, how much money you might make it on YouTube? Like for me,
exactly.
I make maybe a car payment at the most, depending.
Yeah.
No.
Apparently too, and I've been talking to someone who does YouTube from the US. The US, you can actually make money off YouTube, whereas in
Yeah, I'm
Canada,
making money on it.
yeah, in Canada, you actually can't make barely anything. Even if you monetize, there's something about the Canadian VINs that
Uh,
they just suck for some reason. Now, I don't know that much about it. I was just told about that
yeah.
that
Yeah, I
last
mean, I'll
weekend.
send you a screen. I can send you a screenshot of like my monthly thing if you want. Not like in the video. Like I'll offline so you can see it. Like
Yeah,
I'm
that's
on,
awesome.
and I don't make, it's not good. I bet it's cool because at least it's something.
Something better than nothing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we monetized. Well, my personal channel has been monetized for a number of years, and then I went ahead and monetized the Canadian Beef channel, and then I kind of screwed myself because I had monetized them both under my name, which basically they said, well, now both of them are turned off. So
I was gonna say, I wonder if you could re-monetize them somehow under a US, like if you could do it under me, like if you put or maybe you registered under me
yes,
and I send it to you. I don't know. We talk about that off YouTube probably, but
yeah,
like I think there's got to be a smarter way for you to do that where you can actually get paid for it properly.
exactly, yeah.
You can always use my brand if you want. You know what I mean? Like I have a formed company. You can always use that.
yeah, I could maybe even put it under my company too, but then the problem is
Well,
if
if
I
you're
do
paying taxes in Canada, though, they're going to screw you.
exactly,
I'm a
yeah.
U.S.
So
corporation, so
yeah. So what I was hearing is you just get a US VIN and basically you just get it somehow linked through there. So we'll figure that stuff out. But yeah, that's where we're at in terms of monetization.
yeah.
But I mean, like you said, it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it's kind of cool. I
No,
log
if you
in
get
and hey,
something.
Canadian Beef Podcast, $50 revenue. It's like, hey man, it's kind of neat. It keeps you motivated at least to keep doing what you're doing there.
Well, and like I put it back into stuff. At least initially, I bought a camera, I bought lenses, a microphone, stand, lighting, You know what I mean? Like I keep it, I put it back into that channel. So, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Same here because you for the podcast, I pay for the timestamp AI generator thingy. And then you got the Zoom professional and all that stuff. So it doesn't cost a lot, but hey, if you can just make your money back and then make a little extra, then
Yeah,
you're not going in the hole. So
totally.
yeah,
But yeah, if you want to always file it, you could always, we could talk offline, file it somewhere else. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure. So I noticed you wear that Sunday hat. What is that hat? 'Cause you wore it before
Uh,
too.
there's a cool, in a town, a couple towns away from me, there was an old garage, a gas station garage that was bought by this guy who turned it into a restaurant. I mean, he kept it like a garage. He kept the garage doors. He turned it, it's basically like race inspired.
Okay,
So on a nice day, guys show up or girls show up with crazy cars. Like you'll see McLarens there, Ferraris. Um,
very cool.
so it's kind of like 19, I feel like the feel of it is like 1950s or 1960s, like American racing, like hot rod, like
Yep.
that kind of stuff, like the Bonneville Salt Flats feel. I feel like that's like the logo of this hat, but like in reality, it's more like modern European stuff that shows up. But it's a cool, they've got great food and great coffee. If you ever come down this way, like if you're doing the New York Pro, or whatever, I'll take you there. It's a
I'm
cool.
not doing the New York Pro, unfortunately, but I do think I will be doing some US shows,
Okay.
probably Chicago, and we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see
Well, if
what,
you're ever near New York or, whatever, just come
yeah.
stay a little bit. I'll show
I,
around.
I was so I was thinking I wanted to do New York. Not going to be ready for that. I wanted to do California, but I have a guest posing and clients competing that weekend, so that would be overly selfish and probably just dumb to do that. And then Toronto is obviously coming up in 4.5 weeks. Then we have the Vancouver Pro, which is 5 weeks after the Toronto Pro.
You're doing
Yeah,
Toronto?
Toronto and Vancouver so far. Those are 100%. I booked everything for that and registered. But unfortunately, there's no North American shows in between Toronto and Vancouver. So there's a 5 week gap. And, I'd love to do another show in between that just to keep the momentum going. But it's like Italy, Prague, Spain. And I'm like, oh, geez.
No,
So,
it's too much for you to hold that condition for that long.
yeah.
I did it once my first summer back competing after 10 years off. And like I held it for a whole summer. I did a show every other weekend. And
Yep.
like I was just so angry at the end of the summer from
Exactly. Yeah.
much. I was like in the work, like we went to, I mean, what it's like to hold show shape for a long time. Like
Yeah.
we went to the beach at the end. So I'd been in that condition for like 2 months. And like people would say that people like normal people don't run into people in that condition day to day. Like when I'm at the beach with my kids, my wife, and like people would say things like, wow, you're shredded. And I'd be like, fuck you. Like it's in such a bad mood.
Yeah, and it's even just hard, like, yeah, mentally and physically to hold that condition because, and also just like, what do you do? Because you can't really push any more conditioning. You kind of just have to
You can do
hold on.
anything. You're just holding, but it's hard to hold, right? Your training sucks. Your sleep sucks. You
Just
can't
in
eat.
survival mode. Yeah. What's up, Justin?
What's up?
Not much, man. You?
Not much, man. Busy.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Yeah, I think we're all getting into busy season now for sure.
Yeah. No, that's good.
How's everything going? Are you back on now? Are you still going on the cruise? You're looking fucking good.
No, I'm still on TRT. I'm gonna stay until I get my blood work back because I got it done Sunday, so I should get it this week, and I'll see what I'm doing. Because now I've been off for like 14 weeks, so like I wanted to take that time off because I really wanted to like make sure everything was dialed in. But I think now I'm ready. I'm ready to kick things out, and I'm going to be moving probably in this summer um, in Toronto. So I'll
You're gonna move out. You're gonna move out to Pure out here.
yeah.
Oh, nice,
This
man. That's
summer. So
awesome.
I'm selling everything here, and I'll be moving there. Like I'm putting everything on sale probably end of May, so after FitLog, and then I'll start looking, so probably after FitLog, I'm gonna like get an Airbnb in in Burlington or something and kind of like start looking around. I spoke to Antoine, I spoke to a couple guys, like kind of knowing a little bit what the costs were and everything. And, you know,
Yeah.
it makes sense. You know, it's just that I was wondering if I was keeping my place that I'm at now and doing the rent, you know, but I think I'm just going to sell everything.
Yeah, just go all in. Sell it all. Just don't sell that tiger painting.
Yeah, yeah, I like it, eh?
It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's nice. Are you guys artwork guys? Like obviously Justin, you got that tiger painting, but do you have any other artwork? Kurt, do you have artwork in your home?
Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I have that, but it means I've had that since I'm a kid, you know.
Yeah.
I just pulled it around when I moved.
I
Usually
have like I have like obscure stuff. I worked for a long time for a major clothing company. I was in men's design, and so I have a lot of stuff that I acquired from that. I was with Ralph Lauren Polo for a
yeah,
long time, and so
designer.
Ralph Lauren is very generous, and I have a lot of interesting, like valuable stuff that we got from him.
Oh, that's cool. That's kind of like Benoit. He's invested in a lot of just really unique pieces, whether it's like art or different things like that, things that you can put in your home, which I think is really cool because when you walk in there, you're like, oh man, this is some cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff to
Yeah,
look at.
Does he ever come on?
He actually wants to come on pretty soon, so we'll get it going for sure.
Oh.
Yeah. He
Ben
doesn't.
Ben looks like he has a lot of artwork. Like
Oh yeah,
he looks
he's big on that stuff. Yeah.
paintings, statues, stuff like that, man.
A lot of the what is it like the artwork? It's like you wouldn't expect it to be like, oh, here's a $10,000 painting. It just looks like kind of
Yeah. In that sense, yeah.
yeah, just fucking paint thrown at a canvas. But it's cool, man. I've never really been into that kind of stuff because it's funny. Whenever I see something, I'm like, oh, this would look good. And then my wife's like, no, we're not gonna have anything with red. No, we need this color, we need this. So I just let her basically do it all at that point. Yeah,
It's generally a smarter way to stay married.
exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a video, you guys see that video with Regan and his wife, where it's like they're going to the store and it's like my husband trying to help me decorate the house. He's like, how about this? And she just like throws it under the cart. How about this? Throws it under the cart. So just let the women take care of that. We'll do the heavy lifting and they can do the designing.
Exactly.
But
How's that going, man?
yeah, things are going good, man. I mean, I can't really complain. I'm kind of at that point where today especially, I'm like dead. Like, holy crap, like walking was hard today.
Is what 4 weeks now?
Yeah, 4.5 weeks.
Do you feel like you're on schedule?
I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, which is nice because I was not looking nearly this good last time. I was going through all that bullshit. So this is way better. So I can't really complain, as much as you kind of would like to complain about things, there's really nothing to complain about at all. I'm very happy, very grateful at this point in prep. So
What's your last part that comes in for you?
usually my lower back and glutes.
Okay. Standard.
I've never ever had a conditioning problem though, which is I guess a blessing for me. That really it's more about just getting more size and holding the size with that conditioning. Even my very first show when I was 18 years old, I was by far the most shredded, and I've almost always been the most shredded for basically every show. So, I mean, some guys have a hard time getting conditioned. It's never really been that hard for me. But then again, like I push it hard, I mean, I've just always had the mentality that if we're going to be doing 45 minutes of cardio, and that's what it says on the plan, do 45 minutes of cardio. If it's non-specific, then I'm going to be doing it on a Stairmaster, not holding on, flexing my glutes the whole time until I'm a puddle of sweat on the floor. And I just feel like that's always been my mentality with that, because again, it's like from day one, I knew that I could win shows by being the most conditioned guy there versus focusing on being the biggest. So you got to play to your strengths.
Yeah. Which is funny because you are a big guy, right? Like, I don't know if like, it probably doesn't, it might not be understandable by guys watching this, I think, because you are so big. So they probably don't realize that was like your struggle. You clearly overcame that too.
I think I'm big now. Like I think I have the size
Definitely,
I need now.
definitely.
Whereas in previous years, it was always like just getting the feedback of you need more of this, you need more of that, you need more size, and just I already knew that. But I think that was, obviously my game plan from the beginning is I'm not just gonna blow up and step on stage as a mass monster right away. It just took, a decade,
Years,
years to get there.
years.
So yeah, just chipping away. And that was another reason why I enjoyed competing basically every single year since I started, because I could just continue to track my progress by getting on stage and getting whether it's 5 or 10 pounds of stage weight every single time, every single time, every single time. And then now looking back, it's like, oh wow, like I've accumulated a lot of muscle mass by doing it that way.
Yeah. And I think that that's people don't understand the time commitment, right? It's generally about a decade to be really good.
Yeah,
And size takes, it just generally takes a long time. Conditioning is more mental. You just have to be able to withstand it.
yeah. But it's true. Like I'm sure you guys know when you're coaching people, like the first thing they come is like, "Hey man, like I want to do open bodybuilding, go pro." Like that's the first goal they've set. And I've talked about this before, but some of the goals that I set at the beginning, it had nothing to do with being a pro or having the size or anything like that. Like I said, the first show, my goal was to be the most shredded person in that stage, and I repeated that a number of times, and it paid off, and I won like 3 or 4 shows as an amateur when I was natural. And then, it's just once you get to that point, then you set the next goal and the next goal and the next goal.
Anything else.
Right. Yeah. Because you build up your self-efficacy that way. It's like, I know that I can be the most conditioned guy on stage. I know I could be the most disciplined athlete. I know that I can do all these things. Before I know that I can go pro, I know I can accomplish XYZ. Going pro is probably going to be more of a result of who I became versus making that like that's the goal. Like I have to be a pro. It's like embody what a pro is. What even is a pro bodybuilder? I mean, pro bodybuilders, they're the most conditioned generally of the pack. They work the hardest, they're the most disciplined. You know what I mean? Like and then over time, can you do that for years and years
Yeah.
without stopping at all? Essentially,
What,
right?
like you said, you control the controllables. Like you know what you can control. You can't control winning, right? You don't know who else is showing up.
Yeah,
You control what you can control. You control how hard you work, what you put out, what you put in, what you think, right? Like the things that we can control are what we do to our bodies and how we react to situations, right? You can't control situation, but you control how you react to it.
yep,
That's the best you can do is just do that,
absolutely.
you know, and like and day in and day out. And I think a lot of guys also don't understand, like you guys are both big dudes. A lot of guys don't understand the difference between a men's physique pro and an open pro or a classic physique is not necessarily their desire to be in a class. Like a lot of guys have this preconceived notion of where they want to be. Your genetics dictate where you will end up, right? Like I don't have the genes to be an open pro bodybuilder. I could be a pro men's physique. Like I could, you know what I mean? Like that's more my size, my shape. I just don't have the mass, you guys. I don't have those genetics to hold that size. But
Yeah,
like that's not like my will. That's not something I just say to myself. That's just the reality of it. A lot of guys can't be open.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to
It's
say
true.
the guys in the it's not to say the guys in the Olympia stage in physique wouldn't want to be open if they could get there. It's not a drug thing. It's not a training thing. It's not a discipline thing. Honestly, from my experience with the pros, they're physique guys that take as many drugs as open guys, maybe
Yeah,
more, depending on the guy. So it's like it's not it's the limiting factors you're born with so much than it is anything else, right? Every pro bodybuilder works really hard, and they all have great genetics. It just everybody's genetics are different.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And to add to that, like I actually tried to do the other classes and eventually I couldn't fit in them anymore.
Yeah,
It was just because to be honest with you, and then this is something that we spoke about before, like I would have stayed in classic, to be honest. I was topping the class even natural. So I was like, well, there's no point in me to staying there. I'm not gonna have any fun. So that's why I went to open. And then open actually made my physique look better than me and men's
yeah,
physique or in classic. You know what I mean? Like it's the genetics at one point, like obviously like there's people that are a little bit crazy. So that makes it that they're gonna build more muscle than other people. But at the end of the day, some people are just animals in the gym and they'll never get to the open bodybuilding level, so it's yeah.
yeah. And we don't control that rate limit of protein synthesis. That whether it's from androgens stimulating that or eating protein is controlled by your genes. Like we don't
Yeah.
control the rate. Like you grow tissue faster than I grow tissue, right? At an increased rate. And you also have a longer duration that you can grow tissue for, right? Where I'll cap out, you guys can keep going. Like that's
Yeah.
a guy like Samson. Any of these guys just have more potential, right? And also some guys look better bigger. Like for me,
Yeah,
if I could
yeah.
put, I don't have the bone structure. So if I weighed the same as you, I would look horrible.
True.
I wouldn't be able to move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I feel the universe, I feel like, has a funny way of like working out where you're supposed to be when you focus on just being the best version of yourself. It doesn't always work out in the exact way you intended it to. And that could maybe be a little disheartening for certain people that they're just super tied at, hey, if I don't achieve this, then I'm a failure. But I mean, I just think that that's such a bad way of looking at things because you're never going to be happy if you're tying, the way that you feel about yourself to an extrinsic goal versus what you can control, like you said. And, just being blessed, it's like, hey, man, like I'm so grateful regardless of, whether we all want to win, but regardless of the outcome, it's like if you knew that you did your very, 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 very best and you did everything you could have, that's so much more satisfying than being handed a first place prize when you knew that you half-assed something. Like
Yeah.
for me, that's why I enjoyed bodybuilding so much because the reward that I got was directly tied to basically the effort that I put in, right? As opposed to maybe something else. Can't really think of anything that really came super easy to me. But generally, the things that came like super easy to me, I wasn't that interested in because it just wasn't that much of a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So,
and with being blessed, I mean, not to be corny, but like you woke up this morning, you saw the sun, you're standing up, you're not ill. There's a lot more in life if you think about it outside of bodybuilding to be thankful for.
100%.
The fact that you
Yeah.
can do this for a living and stuff is pretty amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, like we're our worst critics, man. Like you could have literally an amazing body. Everybody else tells you have an amazing body, but there's one thing you don't like about it. Oh, I don't like my calves. And someone else would like just be slapping you in the face, like, wake the fuck up, dude. Like, look at your body, look what you've achieved. Like, how, like 99% of everybody else, they hope to achieve half of what you've gotten. So, I think gratitude just goes so far, man. Like it carries me through my entire life now, basically. Without that, like we're talking about breath work and gratitude and all these things I preach to my clients because when you get to that point where you start feeling like, oh, the world's against me and things are going to shit, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. But what can you do about it? You can focus on what you've got. Hey,
That's what I'm
man,
saying.
yeah, exactly.
You
I've
control
got
your
a roof over
reaction.
my head. And I said the exact same thing to my client this morning when he said, I want to do men's physique show. I want to compete next summer. And so I gave him like a little like pre-prep. Okay, like I'm gonna test you. Let's see what you can do here. And let's try to get lean for the summer. And a couple of weeks went by and he's going, listen, like I know you said what you want me to get 400 calories on the Stairmaster. I'm getting like 100, 150, and then I'm getting off and quitting. And I was just like, dude, and you know what I mean? So I gave him tough love and I did because I knew he could handle it and he appreciates it. Not everybody can, but I basically just said, hey, listen, if you're not trying to go above and beyond, then you're not going to be a competitor. And so, long story short, we got down to exactly just that. He's like, I feel so tired. I don't know why I can't do the Stairmaster. I don't know why I can't, why I can't, why I can't. And I'm like, because you're looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at why you can't versus why you can. The moment that you open your eyes and realize that you can see clearly today, and the moment your feet hit the floor and realize my legs work today, and you take a deep breath in, it's like that's all the motivation you need. Now, okay, easier said than done. We know that there are days where you have to have that war in your mind and you have to convince yourself to do things you don't want to do, but that's what it's all about. Because
And
every
those are
time
the
you
days you
convince,
win.
yeah, every time you convince yourself to do something that you don't want to do, it's like putting a rep in on the gym where you're getting yourself stronger mentally. And you do that over and over and over and over again. Then you get to the point where I feel like now I'm on the Stairmaster and I'm like dancing and partying on the Stairmaster, no hands, just fucking loving life because I've pushed myself to the point where now I'm conditioned, I'm lean, my cardiovascular system is kicking ass, and I can reap the reward now.
Yeah.
But
There's
you
there's a
don't get
Navy
there until you suffer a
no.
little bit. So
There's a Navy SEAL saying, "How do you eat an elephant?" Right? They're given these very daunting. I don't know if you've heard this.
no,
When they go through buds, so when you become a Navy SEAL, you go through something called buds first, and you have to pass that in order to earn your SEAL. Um, they're given very, very daunting tasks, and the saying is, "How do you eat an elephant?" The answer is one bite at a time, right? If you look at this whole overwhelming prep as one gigantic thing, it's very overwhelming, right? How are you ever going to make it to stage? How are you ever going to be in that condition? You don't look at it that way. You look at it like the way you just did. You know what? You did your cardio. That was a win. Then you move on to the next win. And your day is made up of small battles that you literally just win all day long.
Yep.
Right?
That's the key to being present and being able to handle shit like that. When you start thinking about all the things you got to do in the future, all the things you didn't do in the past, man, that's suffering right there. That's way more suffering than just being in the moment.
Yeah. But I think also in prep, don't forget, like we also love what we do, you know, like being in the gym, like doing all these things. Like I do think that a lot of people are getting into the sport, not really realizing that like you need to have some type of look, it's really hard to do. And to be honest with you, like for some people they'll make a living, but a lot of people won't, you know. So like you need to love this shit, man. Like if you don't, like if it's gonna be really hard and it's gonna be very hard for you to find a purpose to what you're doing. Like if you're like to put you through all this shit, like even us, I don't know about you guys, but like at one point in prep, like when I'm 3 weeks out, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing, man? Like, I'm like, and it's a thought that we all go through and we still love it. You know what I mean? So imagine someone who doesn't like it's really hard to go through that when you don't enjoy it at all. I think people are getting into it because now it's trendy and it's like, okay, I want to try to do a prep, but realizing something sometimes it's just not for you, you know, like just do something that you enjoy doing. It's a lot of effort, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of time that you spend, you know, like sacrificing things with your loved ones, your so at one point to be able to justify all that, you need to love what you do, man. Like do something else. Like it's fine if you can't do a prep. Like it's not for everyone, you know.
Yeah,
No.
that's a good point, man.
You know, and to make money in this industry, whether it's a bodybuilding or coach, you do have to love it, right? It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
something you
100%.
do. Like I was trying to explain, like I'm truly thankful that I can do what I do for a living and support my family and be around guys like you and make a difference in people's lives. But I was trying to explain to someone the other day about how I feel about coaching. Like I'm up at 4:30, I go to bed at 11. Like I have a long day. I talk to hundreds of people. I have 80 phone calls a week. And I was like, honestly, it's so seamless and easy because I love it. It's like if I said to you, all you have to do every day is make 7 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I don't care when you start. I don't care when you finish, just as long as you get them done before you go to bed. That's your entire, you'll make $1,000 a day if you can make 7 sandwiches. I was like, really? That's how I feel about my work because it comes natural to me and it makes me happy. So I don't stress about it. I do one thing at a time. I go on this podcast, I'll go eat. I got more calls. I have calls and videos until 11, go to bed, repeat the same thing, right? I mean, that's all it is. But if you don't love it, that'd be a miserable life.
Yeah,
Why would you want to talk to people that are dieting all day long?
Yeah.
dude,
You know, if you don't love
that's
that.
it. Yeah, it's such a good point because I remember when, and I'm sure you guys were there too, before we made a living off of doing what we love, we had to work in order to support doing what we love because it was just a hobby at that point. So lots of people have hobbies and they go to their 9 to 5 and then they can't wait to get out of work so they can go doing their hobby. It was like that for us, but that was my motivation. That was my motivation to go and do the job that I didn't like so I could have the money to do the things that I do like. And 10 years later, now I'm making money doing the things that I do like, and that's awesome. But it doesn't, you don't go straight from point A to point B. There's a lot of different points along the way, right? So that's going back to that making small goals, right? It's like, okay, well, I got to make X amount of money so I can pay for my first bodybuilding show, and I need to do this so I can, right? But I was still going through school. I still had to go to school. I still had to go to work, and I didn't want to do any of that stuff. But what I wanted to do was bodybuild. That's what I want to do the most. So everything else made sense. If I didn't have something to do that I loved and all I had to do was just, oh, I got to do the work and I got to do this, and nothing was giving me fulfillment and I wasn't giving anything back to anybody, not getting anything for myself, damn, how do I even wake up in the morning to do that? So you got to figure out what you love, man. It's such a good point. You got to figure out what you love to do and focus on that. That's going to be a good way to live.
Yeah. If you can find unfortunately, a lot of people can never end up in that place, right? A lot of people work their whole lives doing whatever just to make a living.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And like you said, Justin, too, it's like, man, some people love to train, but they don't love to compete. Some people love to compete and train and do everything. Some people, they don't even like to train or diet or do any of that stuff. So
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
what's the point in that case? You got to find a reason to love it then in that case. Because if you
Yeah.
can't, then it's not sustainable. Because when you
Yeah.
get to that point 3 weeks out, you're gonna be like, oh man, you know what? This is the point where I crack. And then, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you know what?
We
I'm just gonna,
we all go through it, even when we do like it.
yes.
So like, so
Yep.
like it's yeah, and there's a point, and I know already. I know at 3 weeks out, I'm like, don't listen to yourself. You're gonna feel like shit. You're gonna want to quit. You're gonna want to do something else. Like it's gonna happen. At one point, there's gonna be a day that you wake up and you're like, this is for nothing. I look like shit, and like I don't know why I'm doing this. Like there's always a point like that. Um, and especially like you said, like there's very little chance that you actually make a living doing this, you know. And to be honest, look, even me, I don't make a living bodybuilding. I make
Yeah.
a living in fitness, but I don't make a living in bodybuilding. I could be a coach and not bodybuilding at all and do and make as much money as I am now. Like it would change nothing. Like for now, I mean, you know, like who knows in the future, but like for now, I don't make a living in bodybuilding. I'd make a living really with the coaching, and other, you know, businesses I have. But like even like I think it was 2 weekends ago, I was giving a conference in the school, you know, and I noticed that a lot of people, well, a lot of young guys, girls, they're going into, you know, working in fields that they really don't enjoy, you know. And it's that was kind of the moral of the story, because they saw us, me and my partner, that we have the business, you know, and they were like, you know, how did you guys get into this and whatever. And we all went through it. Like we all went through a point where we went to school, we were doing something that we're like, okay, well, I'm going in this direction, but is that really where I want to go? And then we kind of realized, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take a little more time. I'm going to go educate myself, and I'm going to go into a business that actually, you know, makes me happy to wake up, you know, in the morning and do it, you know, not go at work and hate your life, you know. And I think a lot of people are like pushed into this thing where, I don't know, man, like they just, I don't think it's because they don't want to. It's just they don't see the actual big picture. But actually looking at something that you really enjoy and going for it, you're going to be a lot more successful than doing that in terms of how you feel. You know, money wise, I'm sure some people will make a lot of money doing something that they don't enjoy. But at the end of the day, you'll realize that like that's not what's going to make you happy at the end of the day. You can make a lot of money, and I could have went into a you know, a career that made me a lot of money as well, but you know, probably wouldn't make me as happy as I am now, you know.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to that, because you were talking about um, career in fitness and not making money on bodybuilding. I think though, so I mentor a bunch of guys too that want to become coaches at some point.
Yeah.
And I think that something that's very important that a lot of people don't miss, you get it though, because the bodybuilding for you is not necessarily your income, but you have to walk the walk, right, in order to coach. And I think it's very
Yeah.
important, because no one would ever listen to you if you couldn't do it, right? Like I don't ask any of my clients to do anything that I've not done or I couldn't
Yeah.
get there. You know, like how do
Yeah.
you ask someone to get ripped if you've never been ripped before? And I see a
Yeah.
lot of coaches
But
that
I
are
could quit bodybuilding tomorrow. You know what I
totally,
mean?
no,
You
but
know what I
also,
mean? Like at this point, I did it, you know, and I could stop bodybuilding and just do what I'm doing now. And okay, I did it at one point. I know how to get there. Um, and at the end but I do some mentoring also for some coaches, but a lot of coaches are not necessarily getting into like prep coaching. So for prep for like, you know, transformations and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. Like you need, I think it does help, at least, you know, it helps to have like a kind of like an image where people are like, okay, at least when he's telling me to do something, and oh, it's normal to feel that way, or it's like whatever, he's speaking the truth because he did it, you know what I mean? Like he did it at the highest level. So he knows, you know, if you feel like shit and it's supposed to be like that, then it's probably the truth, you know. If you're just someone that's never done it, yeah, someone might look at you like, okay, you know what? Like he doesn't know what the fuck I'm feeling right now, because I feel like garbage, and he's never done it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's a possibility for
yeah,
sure. You know?
That's like,
because I think a lot of coaches, or guys that want to start out in coaching, girls want to start in coaching, they focus so much on like what certifications or what education specific. A lot of times it doesn't matter. Like you need to be able to do it. You need to understand it first, and then you work. The education stuff is not like, depends on what you're doing, but like you don't necessarily need it. You
Well,
know,
it's combining the two, you know, like it's
yeah, but I'm
important to have
saying
the
like,
education, you
yeah,
know,
but
but
I'm
it's
saying, but even if you had none, like you're successful at what you do, like you can clearly show someone how to go from A to B.
I think that's a big part of
But
the
do you
education
think
for
that though?
bodybuilding.
Like, if you would have, like, let's say you have a lot of knowledge, right? But like, if you didn't have that knowledge, even though you bodybuild, it doesn't mean that you can coach someone. You know,
Correct. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
I know a lot of people that are just invent themselves coaches. They're the worst coaches on freaking planet Earth. You know, it's like it doesn't make you a coach because you did do it yourself. You might have just followed what your coach told you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you need to have that education to, I believe, to have a certain base. And then it depends on how you are too. Like, I'm someone who's done a lot of certifications, I travel, this is that. And even now, like, I'm still, and as you are too, like, I see like studies that are coming out, whatever, like, learning and reading and talking to people, like, just, we could have a conversation, probably learn like a ton of things just like
Totally.
off of things that you've been through. But that's what it is, you know. How if you're hiring a coach, how is that person like actually handling their coaching? Are they just like happy with what they know, or are they like open to learning new things and
Point.
like learning from other people? Like, that's a value in a coach itself, you know. Like,
Mhm.
you're hiring someone to work for you, but you're actually working with someone that has not only has the education, but is able to like go out and get more, you know, to give you a better service.
And translate that information to you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just meant
two
within
reasons.
reason. You don't have to be being the most educated person is not going to necessarily help you if you don't know how to do it either.
Yeah,
That's
you
that's
need
what I
to
meant.
be
You need
able
to
to
have both.
apply what you know,
Yeah, you
you
have to
know.
have both.
Yeah, and that's something like I it's funny because when you start mentoring, you kind of notice things. And when I get like new students that come in and whatever, I do some one on like the mentoring, I do one-on-one in person sometimes. And you kind of notice that some people have knowledge, but the knowledge is based on what they heard. They don't necessarily understand what they're saying, but they heard something like a certain like insulin spiking and this and that, and like it doesn't, like, when you actually deteriorate what the actual word means, it doesn't even make sense sometimes. It's just like you need to understand like what. So I can imagine that a lot of coaches are like that. They kind of go out and they say, okay, well, I heard it probably somewhere, this, that, and they kind of like push it to their clients. And understanding what you're saying is a big thing.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, so for instance with thyroid, I take an entire year worth of class just on the thyroid. So like
yeah, yeah,
when coaches try to sum it up in 5 seconds, like, oh, you need to look at TSH. Like, I'm not even sure you understand what that means.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but again, it doesn't mean that you need a year like on one gland in order to understand it either. It's just like all this stuff tends to be more complicated. We tend to pull out what we need that applies to what
Yeah.
bodybuilding is.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
matters for us, at least for fitness.
Yeah, there's levels to education, like there's levels to bodybuilding. I relate, for example, someone who does a regional level show. It's like, okay, you've done the show, now you're a coach, and that's like getting your GDA or like getting through high school. Then you go pro, and that's like getting your BSc, and then you go to Olympia, and that's like your PhD in bodybuilding, right? That aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's also like, yeah, like you guys are saying, like what you've actually learned. That's the other piece to it. Whether you've gone through education, whether, I have a BSc in kinesiology, but I don't use any of that information for actual bodybuilding. But then there's also the continuation of learning. And that's up to you because you have, for example, a doctor who has his education and he sits in his office and then you bring up some new research and he has no idea what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
that's just an example of someone who's very well educated, but not continuing to educate themselves because they don't have a reason to. They're not passionate about learning more or to being able to be of service more. But that's why we get along because we're all in the same mindset that we're not satisfied with the ability of service we can provide people. We want to see people rise as much as we've risen and to continue going because you get to a
Yeah.
certain point, it's like, okay, I can help people get to this point, but that's not enough. Just like getting to the pro stage now, we now want the Olympia. Now what's next? What's next? But again, it's stepwise. So,
Yeah.
everything goes hand in hand with what you truly want to do, the service you want to provide, and where you want to take yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're always learning and we all talk to all different people, right? We're always absorbing. Like I talk to as many people as I can because there's always things to learn from somebody.
Yeah.
When I'm not talking to you guys, like I'm in a group chat with a bunch of US pros We just bounce ideas off. I talk to other coaches. I talk to John Jewett. Like, we're always coming up with ideas. Like, we'll discuss, like, this is kind of how we arrived here. What's right about this? What's not right about this? What are
Yeah.
these guys doing? I
Yeah,
think
we're
it's
like,
important
I
to
read
all.
this study, you wrote, like, look, and look, like I said, it's about how passionate you are. When you're passionate about something, you want to learn more, like, and to be open too, like not having an ego and saying, well, I
No
know
one
better
knows,
than.
right?
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I
So
thought one of the coolest things that I've gotten to do lately is, like, I'm friends with John Jewett, and like when he was redoing some of his modules, like, we did a Zoom call and we went over human growth hormone together. So we were on the same page, right? Because we want to make sure that as a community, we're putting out the truth and the
Yeah.
same information. I don't want to ever say anything that contradicts what you say, right? Because no one is benefiting there, because then people just get confused because they're like, well,
Yeah.
so and so said this, but he said this. Like, we all believe pretty much the same stuff. We should all come to the same conclusions with this shit. Nowadays, it's fairly easy to come to the same place with most of this stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's not like 1970 where we didn't understand things. Like, we all kind of know what's going on now.
yeah.
Yep.
So speaking of coaches, get into
Yeah.
some bodybuilding news here. There's some big news. I feel like we should just go over that.
I know where you're
Samson,
going.
yeah, Samson, new coach, new sponsor. So it's
Yeah.
official. Samson
You
is,
sponsor it too?
yeah, sponsor too.
Who's
I
his
didn't see
coach
that.
now?
So
Abdullah, I think.
yeah, I'm gonna pull it up because
I
it's
didn't know. I didn't know
interesting
he was
stuff.
changing sponsor though.
Yeah, so I mean, he put it here himself that he's going to be going with I mean, what is it here? Like Freedom Supplements or something like this. He's wearing the t-shirt. He's at Oxygen Gym, and it says, "Okay, on to the next chapter this summer. I'll be joining the O2 gyms with the watchful eye of Beta Budai and the Oxygen team, while being coached by his wife Marlena. I want to say
Oh,
thank you to
okay.
Beta Budai for being so welcoming to me and my wife. We truly appreciate this opportunity." And then he went into his stories and he was basically just saying, like, yes, this is the deal. I'm going to be going to Kuwait to train at Oxygen for my contest prep. But he did make a note to say that, in fact, his wife will be doing his contest prep for
Okay. Okay. That changes things a little. But
October.
I
Yeah.
see over there. He still has hostile. He still was hostile.
He is still with Hostile as far as we know for now. So that's the only thing that we don't know, whether he's going to stay with Hostile or not, which is
But if
basically
he put the
irrelevant.
code there and everything, I think he's probably going to stay with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, but okay, that changes things a little bit if his wife is prepping him. My only thing was like, I don't know, man. Oxygen hasn't been like the most prominent to get guys peeled, and that's kind of what he needs, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need to get bigger, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like um the calling card for Oxygen, I feel, you know. I don't know about you guys, but
Isn't that what, I mean, my understanding, that's what stopped him from winning the Arnold, is that he
that's what
couldn't
I'm
stop
saying, you
obsessing
know.
about this weight. Like, he
That's
wasn't
what I'm
getting
saying.
because he needed to be 300 pounds.
That's what I'm saying, you know. I don't know if that's the move, you know, but I mean, maybe it changes things if his wife preps him. I don't know, because he did look better in the UK, but
Also, keep in mind that he did make a note to say that his wife was prepping him before when he looked his best, conditioning
And
yeah,
wise. So
my understanding was also for the Arnold in the US, he was sick, right? He had the flu, so he had some level of inflammation, and it wasn't Milos necessarily, because he wasn't listening to Milos. Milos told him to do X, Y, and Z, and he wasn't listening to that advice. He was doing his own thing.
mhm,
So if you're sick and you're not listening to your coach, is it the coach's fault?
no.
is that
I
actually
don't know. I was not in that room, so I can't, but that's
yeah.
from, I know people that know them, and that's what I was told about the situation. So
But in general, even at the Olympia, even at the other shows, like he wasn't peeled. Like it's not like he's always big. He's always but the conditioning is never close to the top guys. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. Like I felt like I thought he was gonna go with a different direction. I didn't think he was gonna go with Oxygen, but at the same time, it's his wife prepping him, so it might be a little bit different. It's not the shit on Oxygen, but it's just like in historical past, Like they've brought like what, like Rami when he was at his biggest, but not in shape. Brendan Curry isn't known for like crazy insane conditioning either. Um, like even I think it was Rolly that was with them for a while,
Yep.
and he got enormous. He got enormous with oxygen, but again, like I don't know, man. It's interesting, but we'll see. Like I don't know.
It is definitely very interesting. And I'm sure there's definitely some monetary incentive
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I guess we'll see, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
like you guys said, like at the end of the day, like you could switch coaches 100 times, and at the end of the day, like it's not the coach that's actually going to be the one getting you in condition. It's you and your hard work and your effort, right? Just like I was saying, like you tell someone to go 45-minute cardio. Well, that's if it's non-specific, that's kind of up to you. And even if you were saying 45 minutes on the Stairmaster, well, a lot of the times when I see people on the Stairmaster, they're hanging on and half their body's draped on that damn thing. So, it's like, and again, it's like we talked about this before. You can never say like an Olympian like doesn't work hard, but if there's something that you need to improve on, then at the end of the day, I feel like that's the athlete's responsibility. Even if you have a coach, like it's like, okay, listen, man, this is my focus. I need to come and peel. Can you help me get there? And the coach will say yes or no, I can help you get there, but is the coach going to be there with you 24/7 to make sure you're eating your fish, make sure that you're doing this cardio, squeezing your glutes? I mean, it's not even possible. So, I mean, unless you're
Yeah.
Oscar Arden, then you're going to be there right beside him on the Stairmaster, moving his levels up, levels down, levels up, levels down.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, as someone who has every level of person, like I have, normal average dudes that literally just want to get in shape, and I have guys that will go to the Olympia. I I'll tell you, I think guys that are new at competing, it's a little different, right? Because you actually have to show them what to do to get there. Like I break each week down, like they have an entire thing laid out. We might change what occurs during each week, but I give them there's an entire layout of when
Blueprint.
each thing occurs, right? Because they've never done it before. So it's totally new. But like when you're talking about a pro, like if I'm going to help you or you get ready for a show, you know what you're doing. Like I'm there to be your sanity, so you don't question it. So you don't say, "Do I add more cardio?" And I'm like, "No, dude, you're already flat." Like
Yeah.
that's what that so it's a different role at different levels, right? Like, like it's more almost food up down, drugs up down. Like you know what I mean? Compound switch. It's not so much like you got to do cardio. Like when you're doing cardio. Like if you're still fat, I'm going to make you do more cardio, but you're generally aware of that shit at your level.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, when you're talking about someone at a pro level, it's more about managing their
I manage their food and their
neuroticism
eating.
and
That's
things like
really what it
that,
is.
OCD tendencies and all the weird things we have
Yeah.
going on.
And
But
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like they stick to weird habits that you're like, dude, that's not doing any good.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point though, and I like that you brought up the blueprint where someone who has no idea where to go. It's like, okay, well, you told me that you want to go here, so I'm going to give you the entire MapQuest directions. At week 3, we're going to turn left. At week 6, we're going to turn right, and all these kinds of things. Now the directions may change, but man, like it's totally a different animal when we're talking about the regional level, a first-time competitor up to the Olympian level. I mean, I don't know, man. It's really time is going to tell. I mean, we're either going to see Samson make a huge improvement in his physique and come in at his best, or we're going to see him come in relatively similar to what we've seen before. I mean, there's only two options here at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy for him, man. Like it looks like he's really excited about it. It looks like
Yeah. Yeah.
he's fired up and he's obviously it's a great opportunity. I know, dude, if Beta Brunei called me right now, I'd be like, yeah, I'm coming tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm packing out like, sorry, Natasha, like you're gonna hold it down here. Like I'll see you in 6 months because you know what I mean. Like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's no possible way you could fault him for following what he believes is like he's following his heart. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but and that's all we can do. We follow our intuition, we follow our heart because we're so passionate about it. And clearly, Samson is one of the most passionate bodybuilders for sure. I mean, he documents
Yeah.
everything. It's absolutely crazy for good
Yeah.
and for bad. So yeah, I mean, I've got so much respect for the guy. And it's when you're at the top, you get criticized the most. That's just what Samson's experiencing, right? So
Yeah.
right. So whether it's going to be good, whether it's going to be bad, we're going to see. It's going to be interesting. Okay, we also got the New York Pro coming up.
Yeah, that's gonna be
Well,
good, man. I
yeah,
wish I could be there, man. I'm gonna be at
Fitlog.
I'm gonna be guest posing, yeah, in Fitlog,
I
yeah.
know, I know, I know. It's yeah. Well, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here prepping, so I'm not gonna bother. But this guy here, we were talking on the last podcast, Ole Krivy, who is doing the 212, and I've seen this guy for years, but getting the opportunity to chat with this guy, he's a Ukrainian guy. My grandmother's Ukrainian, so I was like really like drawn to this guy's mentality. Like just
He's in 212, yeah.
he's a 212 guy, yeah, thank God. But he's just like a fucking he's a beast, man, and I really like his mindset and
Yeah.
also just physique wise, just he's got a great physique. He's not really missing anything.
Yeah,
Just
I saw him in a couple of shows. He gets peeled, man.
peeled and grainy and dense and
Yeah.
thick, you know?
Yeah, those Iranian guys, man, they're fucking getting dry as shit, man.
Dude, yeah. Look at
And
this
that's the thing that they're grainy.
Crazy.
They're yeah, it's a
yeah,
different type of quality of muscle.
the vascularity up in the upper chest.
Yeah.
I'm this is the first prep that I'm actually starting to see some of this vascularity. It's not obviously it doesn't look like that yet, but I started seeing some at the gym and I'm like, okay, we're getting there, you know. It's
Yeah.
little wins.
Now,
But
Robin, your shoulders look good, man.
thanks, man. Yeah, no,
Even
I
in the last
appreciate
week,
that.
big change. It's wild.
Yeah, like I said, it's the trend. No, seriously. Like, you know, when everything's going and things start clicking, then and you get in that groove and you're in the zone, that's where the change happens, right?
Yeah.
I want to find
The list.
where we can find more guys for the list. Why are they not putting out the lists until like 2 days before? It's kind of weird. I will give a shout out here. Actually, I just noticed right here, there's some Canadian guys. Cody Amy from
Cody, yeah.
Fitness. He's a classic pro. He's going to be doing the Pittsburgh Pro.
He
next
looks good, man.
weekend.
I saw some
Yeah,
pictures. He looks good.
he does look good. Yeah. And then Tony Coke, who I don't know Tony Coke from
I
Canada.
know him. I competed against him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Well, when I was in natural, he was competing against me.
nice.
He turned pro natural actually. He turned pro in natural like open, which is pretty much the same thing as classic. And then
Yeah.
but he has a good shape.
Leaf Metellus. Yeah, it looks like I mean, from just what I can see here, it looks like the front runner would be Matthew Grego out of this lineup. That's the one
Yeah.
name that kind of pops out. Already being
I don't know the classic guys as much, you know.
I don't follow it barely at all, bro. I'll be honest. I'm strictly open. I mean, I follow it a little bit, obviously, but you know what I mean. Like a heart is where a heart is. So
The classic lineup is there, but not the open.
yeah, I know, right? There's Matt Grego.
What if you go on the IFBB?
Let's see.
Or actually no, isn't there but the New York Pro doesn't have a page?
Yeah, they do. Bab's gym.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we just go to everybody individually.
At least
Yeah,
the
New
top
York
guys.
Pro. So that doesn't say much here. Well, here's one guy that's doing it.
Angel, yeah.
Calderon.
Yeah.
Let's go check out Angel because I haven't actually seen any of his updates. I don't even think I follow this guy. I'll give him a follow right now. He doesn't follow me either. That's going to change. This guy is a freak, man. Like he's a super freak.
Yeah. Where did you finish at the Olympia? Third?
I don't know.
Fourth?
I think it must have been fourth or fifth.
I don't remember.
I would say that Angel is super duper deadly from the front and side and not as strong from the back, just overall. But
he's a smaller guy too. You know, it's going to be hard in this lineup, man.
Yeah, there's a mix of
it's not that he's
guys.
in another show like I think he won an open show before.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
But
yeah.
it's just like now you're getting compared to Nick, to Quint, to Martin. Like I don't know, man.
And
yeah, Quinton looks fucking insane, man.
Quinton's going to be the biggest and tallest by far.
Yeah.
just overall stature, 6'2". I don't know how much he weighs, but he looks big, wide.
I think he told me it was like in the 270s.
Yeah, 270s. That's pretty crazy. And it looks like he's getting really good conditioning, which I don't think Quentin's ever had a problem with conditioning. When he did his
Oh,
last series of shows, he was peeled. He was just a little bit slight in certain body parts and poses, but
yeah.
he's taken that year off to fill out, and I mean, he's done his job.
But I don't think he was in any state like out of shape, but I think you can see a different level of conditioning
Yeah,
now than he did in the last preps,
that
which
muscle
is normal.
maturity too, right?
Every prep you get a little bit like you push it a little bit more there, but
It's funny because he pretty much always has like peeled, striated glutes, but he didn't have the same level of conditioning or muscle maturity or definition in like his upper body as compared to his lower body. So I think that's going to be what kind of makes him uh, level up, is to have the conditioning, the graininess, the hardness, the density, everything, the muscle maturity throughout his entire body. Um, my boy Beef Stew is looking really good. When I saw
yeah,
these pictures,
I saw those, yeah.
I sent him a message just being like, "Good job, like you're pretty much done." And he's like, "Yeah, now I just have to kind of maintain, like we were talking about Kurt before. It's like, what are you gonna do when you got, he had basically 3 weeks that he's already been in condition, and it's been hard for him mentally." Because he's just like, well, what do I do? I don't push. I'm not going to push conditioning. I'm not going to be eating really that much at this moment. So everybody says, well, I want to be ready 4 weeks early. It's like, I don't know, man. Like sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, he's on par. That's for sure. And he's looking like he's going to do some damage. Second place last year. We'll see where he lands this year, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Again, it all depends on what the other guys look like, but
Yeah.
he
This is a
it's
nasty.
it's a
This is
it's
a
a tough
nasty.
fucking lineup, man. It's a tough lineup
Probably the toughest lineup for New
in
York
a
we've had in a
in
number
a
of years.
while. In
Yeah,
a while, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
really exciting. Yeah, his abs and thighs is one of the best by far.
Hey man, I'm just gonna jump off real quick and then I'll come
Yep.
back.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Robin, I got to jump in like 15.
Yeah, we're gonna end in like 15. We'll Justin,
I
when you
was
come back,
I,
we'll
I was asked
we'll bang out a couple questions.
I was asked a question. Some guy DM'd me one of the questions. Do you want me just to ask it to my like? I can answer it if you
Yeah,
want.
let's do it.
So a guy asked me, do you ever say who they're from, or you just ask the question?
Sorry, one more time.
Do you ever say who asked the question or no?
Sometimes we can. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the guy. So someone just asked me if insulin was inflammatory.
Okay.
So the answer is no. Um, Hyperglycemia, meaning high blood sugar, that's not controlled, is technically inflammatory. So insulin is the only hormone in the human body that controls blood sugar and will bring blood sugar back into range. That's why it's important medicine. Insulin also interacts directly with immune cells to actually bring inflammation down. So kind of the
And
opposite of what guys are thinking.
yeah, and one of the main reasons for a bodybuilder to use insulin, like you said, is to control the blood sugar. So we're not using it because insulin makes you huge, bro. It's because we don't want
Cool.
to
The
accumulate
food
inflammation from high blood sugar from the amount of carbohydrates we intake,
and growth
which
hormone.
carbohydrates are inflammatory to some degree as
Yeah.
well. So
So yeah,
that's
and
a good
that's
point.
yeah. I think people misunderstand that. So you and I have both said this many times. The insulin is not directly used as an anabolic per se, like guys think it is, and it ain't going to do you any good if you don't eat enough food. Like you see these beginners that are trying to use insulin for no reason. When you get to your size, it requires a ton of food, right? Where you're pushing food high. I have guys your size that are eating 8,000 calories a day. When you're eating that kind of food, you need a little help. Your pancreas is just no longer sufficient to deal with that food. So that's when insulin's used, right?
Yeah,
It does add some level of anabolism, but not like adding more testosterone. It's not the same. It's
yeah.
being used as a tool to bring down, like you said, inflammation and push the nutrients where they're supposed to go.
Yeah, and then a
That's it.
good follow-up question we had people asking about insulin and whether insulin was actually the most anabolic or not. You've heard that insulin is the most anabolic hormone that your body has and things like this, but
Well,
it only technically because it's a
yeah, because
storage,
it's building
right?
tissue,
Yeah,
but it's not, no. The most anabolic hormone would technically be IGF-1, would technically be.
Right.
In an adult, technically it could be IGF-2 in an unborn baby, in a fetus, depending. IGF, testosterone would be after that.
Yeah. Nice.
No, insulin is anabolic, but so people need to understand anabolism doesn't just mean muscle tissue. Technically, a lot of steroids increase blood volume, right? The bone mass. They were used for anemia, those sorts of things. That's anabolism. The building of any tissue, any cellular mechanism that's being built up is anabolism. The breakdown of anything is catabolism. It's not always muscle related as people want to always associate things with.
Yeah, accumulating body fat.
Yeah,
accumulating body fat, anabolism as well.
Yeah, like primobolan and anadrol are both anabolic, right? Anadrol probably builds slightly more muscle tissue than primobolan, debatable, but they're used for different things, right? Medically.
I've got a good question here. This is a good question. Difference between Aromasin, Arimadex, and Nolvadex, and when to use each one.
Arimadex, what was that?
Aromasin, Arimadex, and Nolvadex.
Okay, so they're three different drugs entirely. So Arimadex is basically it's an AI. So you're basically stopping the production of estradiol or estrone, E1 or E2, but we're mostly focused on E2 from precursor substrates like testosterone or androstenedione. So in bodybuilding, you're basically concerned with you take an aromatizing steroid like testosterone, and it's some level is going to convert to estrogen, mostly in our fat cells. Some happens in your testicles and then in your brain and other places. But that's why the leaner you are, the less estrogen you tend to produce. And it's done through one gene, and basically Arimadex stops that conversion. So in a man, 1 milligram a day is about 88% total suppression. In a woman, it's close to 100. Arimadex would be the first call, like medically, and in my bodybuilding opinion, Arimadex is the first call drug to stop estrogen when it's out of control. Aromasin is basically a suicide inhibitor, so it's going to act in a different way. It's basically going to destroy the estrogen receptor, so it can no longer bind to estrogen. So it will not reduce the serum estradiol level per se. It's just going to stop it from working by destroying the places where it can go. And then Nolvadex, right? Tamoxifen, Nolvadex was the other one.
That's right. Yeah. So
that basically would be called like an anti-estrogen or a SERM, selective estrogen receptor modulator, is going to do something similar. It's going to basically bind to the estrogen receptor in certain locations specifically and stop estrogen from being able to bind there. So it's basically something called steric hindrance. Basically, it's larger, so it's a big bully and it gets in the way. And it's specifically designed to work in breasts. So when most guys are concerned with gyno, so it basically, it was designed for women with breast cancer. It basically will stop estrogen from interacting with those tissues and also their sex organs as well. So again, to me, that is, you could go either way. You could call that a first call, depending. If your serum estradiol is not super elevated, but yet you're getting symptoms, you could always try Nolvadex first to try to cut down on the symptoms before you lower the serum estradiol. Something that a lot of people, some of this science is new. We're learning that the serum levels of most hormones are inaccurate, and they actually don't mean much to bodybuilding. They have relevance when it comes to things like disease states and cancer, but serum estradiol actually doesn't mean that much. It's basically the excess. So testosterone or an aromatizing androgen is converted to estradiol inside a cell, and then the excess is spit back out into the blood. So when we test our blood, you're basically getting the excess that came out of the cell. So you can still find a guy that might have a low serum estradiol level, but he's expressing symptoms of gyno or high estrogen. In that case, you can use a metabolite test and basically find out what's going on inside the cell. And a lot of times you'll find that inside the cell, the estrogen is still high. So in that case, you would still use it. You would still use something like Arimadex, even if the serum tests low. To get rid of that symptom. So it's not common, but sometimes you'll see in your coaching, you might come across a guy who gets gyno, but you run his labs and his estrogen's totally fine. And then a lot of bodybuilders will jump to things like, oh, it's progesterone. Oh, it's prolactin. Oh, it's not. It's basically just what's occurring inside the cell. And you're only seeing one part of the picture. Same with DHT. DHT and serum is totally irrelevant. It's bound and useless. It's not causing hair loss.
If I can make an analogy with this, Aromasin, we got the lock, we got the keys. Arimadex, we're reducing the amount of keys going into the lock. Aromasin, we're destroying the lock. And with Nolvadex, we already got a key in the lock, so the other keys can't get
It's
in.
like a dummy key that doesn't work.
Dummy key,
You just
yes.
block it, so you can't get the key in there.
Yeah, cool. I like it.
Yeah, and that's and same with IGF. Like again, people don't want to hear this. IGF in serum is not doing anything. It's bound, whether it's bound to BP3 binding protein 3, and it's possibly going to enter a cell and be active at some point, or it's bound to binding protein 1 and it's totally inactive. It in serum is not doing anything. What you care about is IGF that's inside your muscles, and when it experiences mechanical tension, it splices, basically breaks, and becomes a mechanical growth factor. That's how muscles grow. That's what matters, not your serum estradiol, not your serum IGF. We care about that in giantism. That's a way to test if the pituitary is working.
Okay, cool. Very nice. Next one. Does Primo actually cause hair loss? I don't think it does. I'll be using 1 gram soon.
The guy said he doesn't think it is. So
that's the whole question. Yeah, right there.
So I've tried to explain this a couple of times. People don't seem to understand this. So when we look at normal, natural human males or females, if they have high androgens, we're looking at, so testosterone, I'll try to make this simple as possible. Testosterone has 3 fates in the human body. It stays as testosterone. It can act on certain cells. It converts to DHT in other cells that are considered like secondary sex organs or your scalp, or it can become estradiol. So you have more 5-alpha reductase in certain places like your prostate and your scalp, depending on your genetics. This is a rate limit that is formed at birth. You cannot control how much 5-alpha reductase you have in your body, and it is only inside cells. So in a normal person, testosterone converting to DHT on your scalp is what can cause your hair to fall out, depending on how much testosterone or DHT you're producing. Testosterone itself can also cause hair loss without converting to DHT. You can also have low estrogen can cause your hair to fall out. You can have hyperlactin that can cause your hair to fall out. Any androgen can cause your hair to fall out. That's trenbolone is notorious for hair loss. Yep. So I don't know why people have such a trouble believing this. All anabolic steroids can cause hair loss. Nandrolone can cause hair loss.
Yes.
It's when nandrolone reduces in those scalp, it happens to reduce to something less androgenic. But nandrolone, if you use a 5-alpha reductase and you take DECA, your hair will fall out because nandrolone itself is actually very androgenic. It's reducing agent that it becomes very not androgenic. But all anabolic steroids at some point can cause hair loss. What determines if you will or not? Like my hair fell out are your genes. I'm prone to it. You're clearly not. So it doesn't matter if you run a gram of tren, a gram of Primo, whatever, your hair will fall out if you're genetically prone to it. You run enough steroids. That being said, Primo is probably one of the middle of the road ones. It seems slightly safer, right?
Yeah.
Probably debatable. I think tren seems to be the harsher one. Testosterone's harsh. Mastron, some people. Halotestin. I mean, I don't know anyone that runs halotestin long term, but like you see guys thin a little bit when they run halo at the end of prep. Crushing, mine fell out when I crushed my estrogen during prep. It came out chunks.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And also something that I actually learned recently was about different how healthy your organs are would actually transfer into how you absorb the anabolics. So I know a lot of people that are like, let's say, more prone to having estrogen, having higher estradiol, let's say, when you convert, and others will be more related to DHT, right? And in my case, usually I'm a lot more on that side where I'm getting a lot more estradiol from the conversion, right? And I actually got into another cycle, like at the end, let's say like the last one I did, and I did like pretty much the same dosage as I was doing before with no anti-estrogens. And I was actually not converting at all into estrogen as much, right? Because, and this is what was explained to me, was because my liver and my kidneys were probably a lot healthier at that point. So I wasn't converting into estrogen as much, but what happened is that I started thinning in my hair, which I never had before. That was kind of interesting because I didn't think that, like, I thought like just genetically you just had one or the other, but apparently like that conversion can change as well on how healthy you are and how your organs absorb the toxins.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? The human body is a system, like, or a group of systems. It functions together.
Yeah.
Nothing is
Yeah.
fully independent. Like your digestion is not separate from your hormones, is not separate from your brain, and not separate from your skin. Like typically when you see things wrong with, there's more that's related to it.
Yep.
That's a good point. Now this is an interesting one here. Is there a best carrier oil that's used for anabolics between sesame oil, cottonseed, grapeseed oil, etc.? Is there one that's superior to the other?
They claim MCT oil is. Uh, Pharma companies don't typically use MCT because it'd be very expensive and fragile. I know people that might brew their own gear in smaller batches might use MCT. I've had good luck with safflower oil. You can get pharmaceutical grade safflower oil that's very smooth. Grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil to me is fine as well. The reason why you don't see a lot of grapeseed oil used is it has a slight greenish tint and it tends to turn the gear green. So a lot of people they'll get a bottle of testosterone with grapeseed and they'll look at it and it looks like funky, the color. So they're just turned off by that, even though it's not affecting the drug. I don't personally like, I know that there's some data to show that the carrier oil will affect, the half-life and the peak and all these silly things. But like at the end of the day, if you're bodybuilding, you're probably injecting enough volume and enough frequency that it doesn't really matter. Probably not. And you're also not injecting enough volume of the carrier oil that it's going to cause health problems.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be raising your cholesterol by using an omega-6. I mean, realistically, how much is in a cc?
Yeah.
It's pretty minor amount of fluid.
There's probably like the one thing that people will notice is like when you're looking at like a trenbolone or something like that, because it's generally considered to be like an orange liquid. Generally that's going to be like a sesame oil or something that's going to give it that color. And so there's companies out there, I'm sure, that will probably burn that oil to make it a darker color in order to convince people that it's a stronger trenbolone. That's just all nonsense. So that's good. I mean,
Tren is actually orange because I forget the term. I should know this term. Is a chemistry term. All the bonds are on the same side of the molecule. And so when light passes through it, it's distorted. So it actually makes it look orange, which is weird. So it's just a physical property of it because of the bonds. There is a name. That's why even Tren E is the same. And acetate tends to, if there's any oxygen exposed to trenbolone, it tends to oxidize a little bit too. So it can hurt.
Okay. Should you stop drinking liquid 30 minutes before eating as to not dilute digestive fluid?
No. So hydrochloric acid is 16 molar hydrochloric acid in the stomach. There's no amount of water that you could drink that would. So the stomach acid in your stomach is so acidic and so potent that if you put it on a table, it'll burn a big hole through it. You're not going to be able to dilute your digestive juices by drinking fluid. Food can be much better assimilated if there's fluid. Like carbohydrates, for instance, can't get stored without fluid. They won't magically pull fluid from somewhere else in your body. But if anyone here has tried to carb load and not drink an adequate amount of water, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and your body always works in response to. So if you were to put a lot of base into your stomach, like you're taking Tums, your body's going to produce more acid. Yeah. If you put acid in through betaine HCl or something like this, your body's going to produce more base to counteract that. So yeah, I mean that was a thing going around. You shouldn't drink water around like your meal times, but I mean, could you imagine being a bodybuilder and being like, yeah, I can't drink 30 minutes before and after? Like, well, we eat 6 times a day. So when would we drink water? It'd have to be like,
how are you going to stomach
1,000 down to the minute. It's like, oh, sorry, got to stop right now. I got to drink my water. Okay, 30 minutes later. It's like, holy crap.
No, I mean, again, it's that to me falls under, there's this thing in fitness. It's probably in everything, but there's this thing in fitness that people want to focus on the 5%, but yet the 95 is not buttoned up. Button up the 95 and then worry about the little details. Is your cardio in place? Is your exercise in place? Is your diet in check? Are you using gear? Are you getting labs? You seeing a doctor? Are you sleeping? Yeah. Like, how's your emotional health? Like, focus on that shit and then worry about silly shit like, when should I drink water?
Just get your 6 liters in, man.
Just drink the damn water.
Yeah, just get the.
The only negative that would have is, let's say if you don't have a strong appetite and then you're trying to like drink at the same time as you're eating, then maybe you're fucking yourself over because now you're filling up your stomach with water as you're eating. But other than that, there's no like negative effect of it,
Yeah. And again, that like eating so much, like the water might mess you up. Like applies to like you.
Exactly.
Like big guys, but you already know how to drink water and you know how to eat. Someone who's asking that question is probably not eating 8,000 calories a day.
No.
I could easily get up to like 12 liters of water a day when I'm dieting because I'm just hungry and I'm just drinking water all the time.
Yeah, me too. Me
I'm
too.
like, I'm like, oh my God, I should probably like calm down on the water. I'm like pushing.
It's actually in the off season that's harder. Like you're kind of like you don't feel it as much, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We'll do one more and then we'll end it. But yeah, this is a fun one today, guys. With female client cutting, do you make sure to take hormone supplements cycle? No, I mean we don't make sure to. I mean, it just depends on the person's goal, right? Like,
When do
Well,
they
what are
mean
we
like
talking about now?
anabolics? Like what are
so
they talking about?
with it, so yeah, she put in brackets cycle. So with female clients cutting,
Are we are we
you
talking
have
about
to take
anti-estrogens?
a cycle,
Are we
basically.
talking about anti-estrogens? Is that what she's talking about?
Or she's saying natural versus enhanced.
Because she
Enhanced,
said cycle, so I'm thinking like
yeah,
it's probably like an anabolic, right?
I
yeah.
don't force anyone to do. I wouldn't. None of my clients choose to do what they choose to do. I would might advise them as to a smarter way to do something or what to use. But like,
Yeah.
if someone's natural, I am not going to tell them they need to not be natural. That's
This is
crazy.
the
Wait,
one
wait,
thing. It's like
what's
when somebody asks me, it's like, is this absolutely necessary? I'm like,
Nothing.
none
Nothing.
of this
yeah,
is
The
necessary.
yeah.
bodybuilding's not
Yeah,
necessary. You've got
none
to
of
be
this.
fat, sit on a couch. Nothing's necessary.
But when you tell us this is my goal, I want to optimize. This is what I want to do. I want to take it all the way. Okay, that's a different story. Versus, hey, I want to do a mini cut for the beach.
But is she asking if uh hormone control is used in a prep? Is that what the question is?
I don't know. It's not super clear.
It is
Because I
in
mean,
enhanced outfit.
in that case, if you're doing an enhanced bodybuilding show, yeah, sometimes it's used for sure. You
Yeah.
know, it depends what your goal is. Like you guys said, like if you're not going that enhanced route, no. But if you're trying to get like, and it depends also, I think, in the categories too.
Yes.
Like, what are they actually looking for? Are you in bikini where they're kind of looking for like a more not I wouldn't say fluffy, but like kind of like a softer look? Or are
Yeah.
we looking at like women's bodybuilding where now anti-estrogens are going to be used to kind of like get all that water out and all that stuff? Like it really depends, you know. But
Yeah. Depends
yeah,
on the look that you're trying to achieve. Ultimately, it's got to
yeah.
come down to like what you
And
want.
you might not need it, you know what I mean? Like you might not
Yeah.
need it. There's certain like last prep I even for guys like last prep I didn't use like any like letrozole or all that stuff. Like I didn't use it at all. You know, I used a little bit of like Nolvadex and Aromasin and stuff like that, but I didn't need much more, you know. So
Yeah.
I
it really
work.
depends. Prep on prep is different, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I work with a female bikini IFBB pro, and she doesn't
Yeah,
use it. She's natural, lifetime natural. She looks
Yeah.
great.
yeah,
The
yeah.
drugs, and I work with another guy. I've, um, I'm not going to say what kind. I don't want to give him away. He didn't use Tren this year. He's not using Tren. Just doesn't need it. He's past
Yeah.
that point. He's hard and dry. You know, some Astron, a little bit of test.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're Samson's new coach? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, yeah, 100%. Like you guys nailed it. It's got to depend on the goal. There are many females that will need to use anti-estrogens, but many that won't. Depends on the category. And I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is you should just be aware of where your hormones are throughout your prep, throughout your cutting cycle, throughout your off season. And like you guys do, you get your blood work consistently every 2 months or whatever you got going on. But that's how you're going to know what you need to take, how much to take, and why you're taking it. Yeah, I mean, with female hormones in general, less is more.
Yeah.
Definitely one thing that I preach to all the women out there is to start with the absolute lowest dose you could possibly imagine. I'm talking like 5 milligrams, something like this. Don't start with 10, don't start with 20, and also shorter periods of time rather than longer periods of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to put on my forum. I'll have a females only section that I'm going to do. Moderators like you guys are able to go in there as well, just to help if you need. But like men will not be allowed in that section because I don't want creepy guys bothering women bodybuilders. I'll put a list of drugs that are female safe in quotes, and ones that are not, because I think there's a lot of confusion. You see some of the shit coaches give females, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
about Proviron for women.
Yeah.
You know, some of this stuff is like sketchy.
Yeah.
Can we show the forum, or is it?
You could put it up if you have a picture of it. It's not done. I mean, I don't think the topic's done. Just the header and the login stuff is done.
Yeah,
My wife's been killing herself for weeks doing this from scratch.
yeah. I'm excited about it, man.
So Justin, I'm going to give you, I'll send you a link as well.
Sure. Cool. Thanks.
We're
So
gonna
it's,
bring back
it
the
should be similar to like Trained by JP or Intense Muscle or something, but I just want to make a better like place with this, like,
yeah, so it'll be atomiclifecoaching.com. We're gonna have a forum.
and /forum. Yeah. So it'll be a separate.
That's sick, man.
Yep. So this is gonna be really cool. There's gonna be a place for you guys to go to get information, to have discussions with people like me and Justin.
Yeah, I'll be on there.
Big Mo,
It just allows us all to help
yeah.
more people, I think, and just have
Yeah.
a safe place that people can ask these questions and not get heckled. You know, if people are going to be dicks or do nasty stuff, they're gone.
Man,
Like,
yeah.
it's not a place for bro science. I don't want, like, if people are preaching stupid shit like GH15 used to have, stuff's gone.
Yeah,
I don't want
we're gonna keep it legitimate, and I think it'd be cool too, just to throw up like Robin Strand prep log, or
Yeah,
know,
well, I was going to ask you guys, do you want to show
yeah.
videos? I have a videographer in Thailand who's going to film Bigger Steve doing stuff and some of those guys that are in Thailand. So we'll have footage from around the world, guys training. You know, if you want to put up like what your diet is, some, you know, prep pictures, whatever.
We can do exclusive stuff there too, like kind of what
Yeah, I'm going to have an
like,
exclusive level too. So like,
yeah,
it's
I've kind of
join.
experimented this prep with not posting my check-ins on my public page. I only post them in the subscribers page on Instagram just to see kind of what would happen. And you know, I think it's cool to have some things that are more exclusive versus everything is just always public.
Yeah, there will be a level of like there will be an exclusive thing. We can do videos that are just exclusive. Like we can make separate content. We could always link in there. Like, or you know, Justin, if you want to make anything, you know, you can always put stuff up there. You guys can promote your own business as well. It's not just about me. It's supposed to just be a good place for like the people I value in this industry, just to have a cool place to be.
You have Justin's vlog, Road to 400 pounds. Yeah. Awesome, boys. No, I appreciate you guys for coming on tonight. It was really, really fun.
It was fun.
And we'll keep it grinding. 4.5 weeks out for me. Big Justin is off season. Kurt cranking it out. New clients. I see you working with Gabriel now and everything. So very, very excited, man. And stay tuned for that forum. When it's fully launched, we'll definitely let you guys know.
Awesome. You're prepping Gabe for Toronto?
For next year.
Oh, for next year.
So okay. I helped him with his, so it started when we were talking, he had some stomach issues, I guess, during his last prep.
Okay.
So I helped him fix his gut. And we did it with no drugs. We were able to fix it with food and digestive stuff. And then he asked if I wanted to just be his coach. So
oh yeah, man.
Took him on. So we're gonna get him to the Olympia at some point.
Very
yeah, man.
Guy works hard. He's got a lot of discipline, man. I have a ton of respect.
Is he doing Toronto, or you just
not this year? We're gonna take a year. We're gonna grow.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we got to,
because I haven't spoken to him in a little while.
Reach out to him. He's
yeah.
He's a super nice guy.
I know. Yeah. we live in the same, like he's gonna be there at FitLog, whatever. I know him personally. It's just that I just haven't spoken to him. I spoke to him after Detroit, but at that point, I thought he told me that he was doing Toronto. That's why I'm asking.
I think he was kind of a low point after that. I think he wasn't very happy.
Yeah, that's what he was
telling me. He didn't know where to eat, and he didn't know where he was going to go with this training. So I feel like I helped him at least refocus on what we could do.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, man. Like you can do things on your own, but I think it helps to have someone that's knowledgeable in your corner to help you out.
And I'm a friend to him too. So like
exactly.
I'm not, I'm not for my own clout. I just want him to succeed and do well.
That's the most important thing, is that you have someone in your corner at all times that cares about you. So that when you have that little crazy, moment, like we all do as bodybuilders, whether you don't get the placing, whether you just feel bad about, because we all talked about, like, we go through those times. We want to quit, fuck it, it's not worth it, or you get an injury and my career's down the drain, or anything, any number of possibilities can happen. Having someone there to help bring you back and ground you, that's crucial to your survival as a good bodybuilder.
Yeah, definitely do.
All right, boys.
Thank you.
Lots of love. Sending you guys light and love and everything. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Yes, kill it, bro. Ciao.
Peace.